refusing to go to the family vacation because my cousin is making a demand for me to babysit. I, 25, was repeatedly stuck playing the part of a helper and babysitter on every family trip. I finally had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to watch my cousin's 3 kids. Last year, we took a family vacation in summer to the mountains. I rode along with my parents, and they paid for my cabin. Only I had to share the room with 3 energetic kids because my cousin and her husband wanted a place to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things during the vacation, but instead, I ended up helping with the kids the entire time. I complained to everyone about it and was reminded that I was there for free. In the end, we did just one thing I wanted. We visited a local museum. I love doing that whenever I'm in the mountains, but the kids found it boring. This year, my parents planned another family trip for June, this time to a lakeside resort, and they assumed I'd be joining the same way as last year. But I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own stay so I could have my own space. My parents were shocked and tried to remind me how expensive that would be. I told them not to worry. I've got a good job and a reliable car. I can more than afford it. That's when the but started. I explained again why I'd be driving and paying for myself. I want to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not be treated like a child like last year. My parents told my cousin, and she immediately called to blow up at me, saying I'd be ruining the vacation if I did my own thing while she had to handle her 3 kids. I ended up yelling back that last year. All she did was drag me into her mess. I didn't get to do much of anything I wanted and was treated like the bad guy just for wanting to visit a museum. I'm a grown man. I deserve my own vacation too. Now my cousin isn't speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to ride with them to keep the peace. I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Am I the jerk for not giving in? I know they'll have a hard time without me there to help. Edit. It's barely been an hour since I posted, but my cousin apparently checks Reddit in the mornings, and she saw my post. Not only is she furious with me, but she's also upset that no one in the comments is siding with her. To make it short, she went on a big rant about how hard it is to be a parent to 3 kids, and how the least I could do is help because I'm young and single, and she needs a break. I stood my ground, and now she's calling our parents to get them involved. I'm expecting a call from them any minute. Update. Well, I'm off work now, so I can explain what happened. I guess you could say it's over. My cousin got our parents involved. They looked at my post and were absolutely shocked by the constant flood of comments. Yes, they're very angry with me for posting, but I told them that if they had just listened to me in the first place, I would never have needed to. I'm sick of the whole keep the peace mentality that sacrifices me to please my cousin. They, in turn, went off on her. And to make a long story short, the whole vacation has been canceled. The hotel wasn't booked yet anyway, but now my parents are arguing with my cousin. My cousin is blaming me, and her kids are crying because they're not going to the lake. My cousin called me at lunch and basically implied I have no life, which is why I have time to help. I recorded that call and told our parents, and that's what they're fighting about right now. Small update, I wasn't going to update again, but here's a little more. My parents said they'll never push babysitting duties for my cousin's kids on me again and admitted that what happened last year was unfair. Right now, they're very angry with my cousin for telling me I should help her because she thinks I have no life. My cousin is playing the victim, and my cousin's husband is basically staying out of the mess, spending most of his time at work. Thank you to everyone who commented. You really made my day. Update 1. My parents apologized. My cousin didn't, at least not at first. A week ago, I made this throwaway account to ask an "Am I the jerk?" question. I was found to be anything but. I have too much to say for just one update, so a friend recommended I continue here. My post on "Am I the jerk?" basically opened a Pandora's box in my family. My parents and older cousin had become very comfortable relying on me for childcare for her young kids. I didn't move out until I was 22 because I was trying to save money while going to college. My scholarship covered a lot, and living at home helped me avoid rising debt while I worked part-time. I was very thankful for that. However, after college, everyone just seemed to assume I had endless free time and convinced me to join another family vacation. During that so-called vacation, I was forced to babysit my cousin's 3 children, who were 6 at the time. I even had to share a cabin with them. And believe me, those kids didn't listen to a single thing I said the first night until I called their mom twice. I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to do other things during the trip. If it was something the family didn't enjoy as a whole, it just didn't happen, which was extremely hypocritical because I'm family too, yet wasn't included in those decisions. You can bet I shared this complaint with my parents after my last post, and they admitted they were wrong. After that awful vacation last year, I decided it was time to move out. I did so before the summer even ended, surprising everyone since I gave no warning. I landed a great job right after college thanks to an apprenticeship and used moving as an excuse to cut my commute from 45 minutes to 15. My cousin hated this the most because it meant no more free babysitting on weekends. But she still tried to make me do it. I caved sometimes, usually when bribed with pizza, and that sort of became the new norm. Then, last month, my parents announced plans for another family vacation, to the same mountain resort, and they basically wanted it to go the same way. I immediately saw it for what it was, a trap. I knew that if I rode with my parents and let them pay for the cabins, I'd be stuck the same way as before. So I casually said I'd drive myself and pay for myself. That's when the storm started. When my parents realized they couldn't trap me like before, they resorted to borderline begging. And my cousin practically tried to order me to go with the flow through guilt tripping. Newsflash, I didn't. After I didn't cave to my cousin's demands, I made the "Am I the jerk?" post after days of harassment. Somehow, my cousin spotted the post in less than an hour, and what followed was Pandora's box. At first, the whole family was against me. My cousin called our parents, and they called me early in the morning when I still had a little time to talk. My parents were on the phone with me while also reading my post. I asked them if anything I wrote was a lie. They avoided answering directly and called it an exaggeration, but I pointed out several details that made it completely accurate. Then I told them to check the comments. There were already far too many to read. I kept refreshing the page on my laptop and telling them how many comments there were. I told them I was tired of their keep the peace mentality that always sacrifices me to please my cousin. Then I said I was out of time and had to get back to work. My parents were horrified that hundreds, if not thousands of people were commenting within hours. Later that day, I told them that the number had basically doubled and was still growing, which only added to their shock. I guess they were finally forced to take a long look at their own behavior. My cousin tried to call me too while I was at work, but my phone was on silent until my lunch break. All she could do was leave messages and texts, but she was persistent and eventually got through while I was eating. The gist of the conversation was that my post had turned our parents against her, and now they were angry with her. During the argument that followed between them, my parents canceled the entire vacation. Yes, they later admitted that they only did it out of embarrassment and finally accepted fault. They told me there were no excuses for making me their go-to free babysitter when I wasn't even living at home anymore. They did try to backtrack a little by pointing out that they never charged me rent while I was in college. But I reminded them, kids don't ask to be born, and I had worked hard to make my own way. Then I pointed out that my father had the same kind of help from his parents. They let him live rent-free while he was in school. That basically ended any argument they had left. When my cousin managed to call me again during lunch, I presented all the facts to her, and she showed her true colors. She implied that I have no life, and that my free time on weekends should be spent helping her because she's tired and can't even go out without bringing her children unless someone is watching them. She's a stay-at-home mother with a husband who makes a good living. They own a comfortable house, not rented, and to be honest, her kids aren't my responsibility. They just pushed them onto me and expected that to continue forever. My cousin angrily hung up on me, but I recorded the call and played it later for my parents. They were furious and basically went to war with her. My cousin dug her heels in, blamed me, and doubled down on her belief that my life should revolve around hers. I told her that was the most selfish and entitled thing she'd ever said about me. It took a few days, but her husband finally stepped in and made her apologize. I'd never seen her back down like that before. She was on the verge of tears. It ended up coming out that one of the reasons I was always the designated babysitter was because my cousin didn't trust strangers. It was never about money. Or was it? Her husband thought she'd been paying me for watching the kids after I moved out of my parents' house, but she hadn't even given me gas money, just enough cash to order pizza for myself and the kids, and she kept the rest. My cousin had been underpaying me for months. When this came out during her half-hearted apology, her husband exploded at her. She was forced to pay me what she owed, in full, from her own savings, and she looked miserable doing it. Then my cousin's husband apologized to me for not stepping in sooner and letting her walk all over me. He promised they'd hire a proper babysitter from now on. Sure, it would cost them more, but at least they'd get their date nights back. Then came the family meeting. The other evening, we all gathered at my parents' house and everything was laid bare. Apologies all around. After that, my parents reinstated the family vacation. And yes, I still plan to drive myself and pay for my own stay. I'll even stay in a completely different lodge if my cousin tries to push babysitting duties on me again. I've made that clear. She's promised me it won't happen. And if I don't update again after the trip in another month or so, you'll know everything turned out fine. Update 2. My cousin called me, demanding that I take my post down. Now she's more upset than ever, realizing how far the story has spread. Having family that knows about your Reddit account definitely has its downsides. Yesterday, my cousin called me after work to ask if comments are still coming in. She said she can't bear the negativity herself because they're all so hurtful toward her. I was honest. At least 10 comments are still coming in every day, and most of them say the same things about her. She started crying and demanded I delete my posts, but I refused. I told her she can cry to anyone she wants, but the posts stay up. They're my assurance that she won't try to treat me poorly again. After all, she acted like my life should revolve around hers, didn't pay me what she promised, kept the leftover babysitting money for herself, and made me the constant babysitter during last year's vacation, leaving me no time for myself. Is it really any wonder people are upset with her after all that? Then I mentioned that the posts have already spread to other websites because a few people asked to write articles about my story, and there were even some videos made about it. My cousin screamed when she heard that and hung up. A little later, my parents called me, begging me to take the posts down. I refused and told them this only happened because they never stood up for me. If they had told my cousin to treat me like an equal and not a servant, none of this would have happened. I'm not her helper, her babysitter, or her handyman. I'm her cousin and a grown man. Wouldn't they be tired of this if they were in my place too? They agreed, but still begged me to remove the posts. I refused again and told them I'd keep posting if they didn't start standing up for me when my cousin runs crying to them. Let her handle her own messes. All their enabling is what caused this in the first place. I didn't choose to have those kids. I have a life of my own, a career I'm just starting, and hopefully soon a girlfriend. There's someone I want to ask out. I'm moving my life forward, and I won't be held back. They can either step aside or keep enabling my cousin, but I assured them that the latter would end badly for everyone. The only way these posts stop is if the drama stops. I've kept everything anonymous, and I have the right to vent my very real frustrations. That left my mother crying, and my father just went quiet. I told them tears don't move me. They know what it'll take to end this. Stop enabling my cousin. Well, my cousin called me again to yell that our parents told her they aren't dealing with this anymore and that she has to figure it out herself. Oh, and they told her to be nicer to me too. I could practically picture her eye twitching as she silently screamed inside after hearing that. Be nice to my younger cousin? What even is this? Should I look it up on Google? Yeah, I was that sarcastic to her. But it still made her cry when I hung up. Later, my cousin's husband called to hear my side of the story. He was upset that I was still posting online and that I'd made his wife cry, but once I explained everything, he said he'd talk to her again. I really hoped the drama would finally end there. The family vacation was still set for late June. I had already booked my own room and requested a day off work so we could all leave on a Friday. My room wasn't near the ones my parents, cousin, her husband, and their kids were using, not even on the same floor. And when we went to the mountains, if it wasn't a family activity, I was going to do exactly what I wanted. You can bet I was planning to explore museums, try local food, and just enjoy being carefree for once. Update 3. After the family vacation. The family trip is over, and some things went both good and bad, pretty much as expected. The good? My parents didn't enable my cousin's attempts to make me babysit. The bad? She still tried. And yes, she also tried to find out which room I was in, but failed and got in trouble with her husband again. First of all, I made sure to tell the hotel staff in advance that they were not to give out any of my personal information to anyone who asked, except for police if it were ever necessary. They assured me over the phone that they would tell no one. On the day of the vacation, I left earlier in the morning than the rest of the family. I knew they wouldn't be ready as a group before 10 a.m., so I left at 9. Check-in wouldn't be until 1 p.m., but I wanted a head start. I sent a quick group text letting everyone know and hit the road for the 3-hour drive. My parents were upset because they'd planned a family brunch on the way, but I told them I'd never been informed of that. So brunch was canceled, replaced by fast food, just as I'd planned. I arrived at the hotel early, too early for check-in, but I went to the front desk to make sure my parents or cousin hadn't given out my details. The clerk said they never do that, but I told them I know it still happens sometimes, so I was covering myself. I made it clear, if my mom or cousin showed up with crying kids to guilt them into sharing information, they'd better not give in. They awkwardly promised me that no one except me would have access to my room. Then I went out to grab something to eat. When I came back an hour later, my parents' car and my cousin's large SUV were already in the lot. I went inside to check in, making sure the lobby was clear first. I asked the desk clerk if my family had asked about me or my room. They admitted, yes they did, but the clerk refused to tell them anything. Apparently my cousin tried to insist, but her husband stopped her. I checked in, went to my room, and called my parents. I didn't mention that I knew what they'd tried to do with the hotel staff, and they conveniently didn't mention it either. We all met up later as a family to go sightseeing. At one point, my cousin asked me to watch her kids for just a moment. I immediately said, absolutely not. I knew exactly what she was doing. She'd disappear for an hour after pretending to be gone for 5 minutes. I called her out on it, and her husband told her to stop trying to push the kids on me. So what did my cousin do? She started crying on the spot, saying she needed a break. Her husband told her he was exhausted too, but he wasn't complaining. My mother shot me a nasty look, so I turned right to her and said that if she even thought about suggesting I should be watching those kids, I'd walk away from the family vacation right then and there. It's not my job, I said, and I'm tired of you and her acting like it is. That made my mom start crying too. She just kept repeating, you're right, you're right. It's an old trick of hers. She tries to look pitiful to guilt me, but I simply said, yes, I am right, and told her to drop it before walking away. Neither my mom nor my cousin tried anything else for the rest of the day. When we got back to the hotel after dinner, everyone piled into the elevator, but I didn't get in. They asked why, and I said I'd take the next one. My cousin glared at me because she knew exactly why I didn't join them. I sat in the lobby watching videos on my phone for 15 minutes before heading up. My room was on a different floor and on the opposite side of the hotel. That night was peaceful. The next morning, we went out for breakfast. I made sure they left first. I was the last one out, just like I'd been the last one in the night before. Breakfast went smoothly, and afterward, I let them know I'd be doing my own thing for the day. My mom tried to bring up plans for the aquarium and a few other places, so I said I'd meet them for those. But the rest of the day was mine until family dinner. They agreed, and that day went fine too. Back at the hotel that evening though, my cousin caught me leaving my room. She must have been walking around the floor looking for me. I'd just gone back to my room to rest a bit before dinner. I was tired from walking so much. and she was right down the hall when I came out. She tried to corner me and said I'd ruined the family vacation for her because now it was no different than being at home, since she still had to manage her kids. I called nonsense on that, because my parents were helping her plenty. Then I told her I was tired of the same old song and dance, of being her scapegoat, and that this conversation was already over. "Leave me alone and focus on your own life," I told her before walking away. She yelled, "Hey, I'm talking to you." I said I didn't care and kept walking to dinner. She followed me to the elevator, but we said nothing. When I met up with the others, I told my parents and her husband that my cousin had been following me around to find my room. She was scolded like a child. She threw herself a pity party, and I told her to stop acting and grow up. The old days, when she could boss me around, were over. Then I walked out of the lobby to my car. This time, I was the first to arrive at dinner. When everyone else came in, my cousin looked miserable, but no one said a word about what had happened earlier, and that was fine by me. She didn't speak to me the entire evening, and I didn't care. When we got back to the hotel, I told everyone plainly that unless it was an emergency, no one should knock on my door. I had a "do not disturb" sign for a reason. The final day went smoothly. Neither my cousin nor my mother bothered me at all. They'd fully given up by this point. Yes, during the whole vacation I still played with my cousin's kids a bit. I'm not a complete jerk. I didn't ignore them. I kept being the fun cousin, just not the built-in babysitter. The kids didn't seem to care. They just wanted to play. I even bought each of them one of those little bags of crystals and polished stones to take home as souvenirs. There was a bit of mild drama between my cousin and her husband, but it was just some small disagreement I didn't pay attention to. All in all, I'd call the vacation a win because it finally hit home for my mom and cousin that the old way of doing things with me is over. I have my own life now. Update 4. My mother and cousin saw my last post. They really don't know when to let things be. "Hey mom, hey, cuz I warned you that if you didn't stop, I'd go right back to Reddit, and here I am." The short version is that my mom and cousin saw my latest post and completely freaked out. My cousin had actually been checking my account for days because she knew I'd post again. Well, what did she expect? That I'd just write, "Everyone had a good time." She called me crying, saying I made her look like a bad mother. I replied, "Well, if the glass slipper fits." My cousin argued with me some more, but I asked her to point out one thing in the post that wasn't true. She tried several times, but every detail checked out. So what did she do? She called my mom. Then my mother showed up at my door demanding I delete all my posts. I told her no, and now I had material for another one. She ended up leaving in tears. Later, I spoke with both my parents on the phone and told them bluntly that their constant enabling of my cousin had created this entire family dynamic. I told them I would never go back to how things were, and if they were still holding out hope for that, they should let it go for good. My parents then told my cousin, "For heaven's sake, stop blaming him and leave him alone. We can't take the stress of this anymore." Well, my cousin threw herself a "no one loves me" pity party, and my parents had to snap her out of it. Her husband hasn't called me. I'm pretty sure he's staying neutral. But this can't be good for his marriage or my connection with him. Out of respect to him, I'll say this. I'm sorry, man, but your wife pushed me too far. Currently, my parents are insisting that my cousin get counseling because she can't keep trying to juggle motherhood with her old habits. They told her to grow up and make it work. Either way, I'm hoping this will be my last post. You hear that, cuz? If you don't stop thinking I should be your personal babysitter, helper, or watchdog, and if you keep acting like the whole world is against you just because you can't boss me around anymore, then we can't be around each other. Maybe we can move past all this if you're willing. Don't give me another reason to write anything else. From now on, I'll only post about my own experiences and how people treat me. Treat me like a decent human being, and this will all be over. Capiche? Update: my parents and I had a long talk. They apologized, and for now, we've agreed I'll keep a bit of distance until Thanksgiving. I also had a man-to-man conversation with my cousin's husband last night over a couple of cold beers. He told my cousin that she needs counseling or he'll separate from her, and they're now in the process of finding her a therapist. He also told me that while my cousin was extremely difficult with me at home, she's actually a loving wife. But she admitted she liked being treated as an only child. We're nearly 10 years apart in age, so she'd held on to resentment about that for a long time and let it build up. She's agreed that she needs counseling and will be starting as soon as they get it arranged. They've also found a qualified babysitter to look after their kids from now on. Aside from that, my cousin's husband admitted he was angry with me too, but didn't step in when I needed him. We both agreed it was just a very bad situation that needed to end, and we're letting it rest in peace from here on out. Lastly, these posts have actually gotten me a girlfriend. The girl I liked had a feeling it was me after reading them, and she'd just been waiting for me to say something. We're going on our first date tonight, so thank you everyone here for your incredible support. I really needed it.